welcome to the learners on this online education portal, which is today's lecture is based for the environmental toxicology. Inside the environmental toxicology, today we will go for biological toxicants and the food intoxication. Now, what are the biological toxicants and what are the food intoxicants? A toxic agent is anything that can produce an adverse biological effect. It may be chemical, physical or biological in any form. For example, toxic agents may be chemical such as cyanide, physical such as radiation and biological such as snake venom. This term toxin was first used by organic chemist Ludwig Breker in 1849 and up to 1990. There are three types of the toxic entities. One is the chemical, second one is biological, third one is the physical. The chemical toxicants include the inorganic substances such as lead, mercury, asbestos, hydrofluoric acid, chlorine gas, organic compounds such as methyl alcohol, most medications and poisonous from living things. Biological toxicants are the selective poisons produced by living organisms, which are usually consist of an amino acid chain of between few hundred peptides to thousands of the proteins. In nature, bacteria, fungi, algae, plants and animals, they produce a vast range of the toxins. Now comes to the physical toxicants. These are the substances which that due to their physical nature interfere with biological processes. For example, coal dust, asbestos, fibers, both of which can ultimately be fatal if inhaled by the human beings or the animals. Now we will go for the types of the biological toxicants. First type is the epitoxin. It is a honeybee venom and it is injected via the sting. Second is the cyanotoxin. These toxins, these are produced by the cyanobacteria. Third type is the necrotoxin. These substances cause tissue destructions via cell death and are carried in the bloodstream. Next is the hemotoxins. These are the substances which are carried in bloodstream and targeted the red blood cells. Fifth one is the mycotoxins. These are the toxins which are produced by various fungi. Sixth one is the neurotoxins. These are the substances which affect the nervous systems. Now, how they affect the human body? The illness resulting from these toxins from the spoilage of contaminated food, pathogenic bacteria, viruses or parasites that contaminates the food. So, these are the foodborne illnesses come from different bacteria, fungi, viruses and the parasites. Now, what can be the symptoms of these foodborne illness? The symptoms could be fever, vomiting, nausea, dehydration, upset stomach, cramps, diarrhea. These are the few symptoms of these foodborne illnesses. In the world, the top countries who had the food security secures for affordability, availability, safety and quality of the food in 2019, the topmost was taken up by the Singapore, followed by Ireland and the United States. Now comes to the classification of foodborne diseases. There are two kinds of the foodborne diseases. Number one is the foodborne infection and number two is the foodborne toxication. The difference between infection and intoxication is that infection involves the foodborne is an inflammation of the stomach and bowels and it is contaminated by bacteria, virus or the parasite, and often the inflammation in the infection leads to diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, abdominal and sometimes the fever. Now comes to the intoxication. In foodborne intoxication is more commonly referred as a food poisoning. It is caused when food that contains the toxins from the pathogens are eaten and the symptoms can begin to show anywhere from 1 hour to 28 days. A foodborne infection can last between 1 and 3 days. Many foodborne infections occur at people's homes simply due to poor hygiene. The length of the time depends upon the source of the infection. Common case of food poisoning typically abdominal cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, loss of appetite and the nausea. And when we talk of intoxication, foodborne intoxication, it is a type of foodborne illness which is caused by ingesting exotoxins found by organisms such as fungi, bacteria or other microbes, or by having the food which is toxic in nature for animals or human beings. It is a type of food poisoning. Every year, foodborne diseases occur. Almost 1 in 10 people to fall ill and 33 million healthy life years lost. Foodborne diseases can be deadly, especially in children less than 5. 42 lakh death has been taken up by the foodborne diseases, and the children account for almost 1/3 of the death from the foodborne diseases. Foodborne intoxications are mainly due to naturally occurring food, for example, letharism and endemic ascites. Due to toxins produced by certain bacteria, they are botulism and staphylococcus poisons. Due to toxins produced by some fungi, they are aflatoxin, ergot and fusarium. These are the example of fungi which happen to take place these intoxications. Foodborne chemical poisoning heavy metals, that is maybe by mercury and cadmium and lead. Oils, petroleum derivative and solvents, they are example are tristyrene phosphate TCP. Migrants chemical from packaged material, they are asbestos and pesticides residues. The signs of food poisoning, they are headache, intestinal upset, diarrhea, you can say headache, dizziness. These are the few signs of the food poisoning. The diseases caused by the bacteria, they are number of microorganisms which are involved. They are Staphylococcus aureus, Clostridium perfringens, Bacillus cereus, Clostridium botulinum and Salmonella. And the incubation period for these organisms, first we will go for the Staphylococcus aureus, which requires incubation period of 30 minutes to 8 hours. Signs and symptoms: sudden onset of severe nausea and vomiting, duration 24 to 48 hours. Food sources may be meat, eggs, salads, creams. Clostridium perfringens 8 to 24 hour incubation period. Signs, symptoms: abdominal cramps, duration 24 hour, and food sources meat and poultry. Bacillus includes the incubation period 6 to 24 hours. Symptoms are abdominal cramps, duration is 24 to 48 hours. Food sources are cooked rice. Clostridium botulinum requires incubation period 12 to 36 hours. Vomiting and diarrhea are the symptoms. Variable duration time and improperly canned food are the food sources. Salmonella 6 to 72 hours requires the incubation period. Symptoms are diarrhea and fever. Duration required is 4 to 7 days. Eggs, poultry and meat etc. are the sources, food sources for this. Now we will go for Staphylococcus aureus. It is a gram-positive bacteria and cocci shaped, tend to arranged in cluster that are described grape-like. These organisms grow aerobically as well as anaerobically and at a temperature between 18 to 40 degree. The sources of food in this are mainly poultry, cooked meat products, ham and corn beef. Other foods implicated were milk products, canned food and bakery products. Symptoms starts from 2 to 8 hours and begin abruptly with severe nausea and vomiting. Severe fluid electrolyte may be taken that may cause weakness and very low blood pressures. It may go up, symptoms usually last up to 12 hours. How we can manage? The management can be done by controlling the educating people, prohibiting the persons from handling food who have skin lesions, keeping food at 4 degrees centigrade or lower to prevent the bacterial multiplication and the formation of toxin. Food items should not be left at room temperature for longer times. Next is the Clostridium botulinum. This is an anaerobic rod-shaped spore forming bacteria. It produces protein with characteristic neurotoxicity. And botulism, a severe form of food poisoning when ingested, and 7 distinct forms of botulinum toxin A to G is there, and it causes illness to mammals, birds and the fish. The sources of botulism is the smoked, salted and fermented fish, fermented marine mammals, baked potatoes which are stored in the aluminium foil. And the symptoms are the dropping eyelids, difficulty in swelling, dry mouth, facial weakness, paralysis, vomiting, nausea and trouble in breathing. Types of botulism are 4. One is foodborne botulism, second is infant botulism, wound botulism, inhalation botulism. Foodborne botulism starts in food prior to consumption. Infant botulism may occur in the infants from 6 months of the age. Wound botulism is very rare. It occurs when the spores get into an open wound and are able to reproduce in an anaerobic environment. Inhalation botulism associated with the accidental which result in release of the toxins. Management of this can be done by the exposure, by putting the preformed toxin in food can completely destroy by exposure to temperature 80 degrees centigrade. Therefore, all homes canned low acid food should be boiled before tasting for consumption. Never taste food if an odor shows some formation. Prevention of foodborne botulism, that depends on ensuring effective control of commercially and home canned foods are destroying all Clostridium botulism spores. This requires cooking at 121 degrees centigrade or higher. Home canned vegetables should be boiled and stirred at least 3 minutes before the serving or destroy. Next is Clostridium perfringens. This is another food poisoning caused by infection with Clostridium perfringens. It is mainly happen to take place in intestine of humans and many animals. It present in soil and the contaminated areas by humans or the animal feces. Symptoms usually appear 6 to 24 hours. Intense abdominal cramps, watery diarrhea, disease usually over within 24 hours. The sources of this Clostridium perfringens are the improperly cooked food or the stored food. Commonly infected food includes meat products and the gravy. The symptoms of this includes the cramps, watery diarrhea and it start usually 6 to 24 hours after eating the food. The disease usually over within 24 hours. Less severe symptoms and the management involves the cooking at temperature below 100 degree will allow the survival of the spores. The cooking process blocks oxygen, creating real anaerobic conditions in the foods. In pies, gravies, stew and rolls of cooked meat and poultry carcass. Therefore, prevention of vegetative cells can be done by cooking food properly, and this is the most practical way of preventing Clostridium perfringens foodborne illness. Chemical intoxication. Poisoning occurs when any substance interferes with normal body functions after it is swallowed, inhaled, injected and absorbed. Examples are antimony, mercury, copper, zinc, cyanide, fluoride, fluorinated hydrocarbons. The contamination is being with the help of heavy metals, nitrate, dioxins, mycotoxins, pesticide residues, packing materials, biotoxins. Now the chemicals, this slide shows very beautifully the chemicals and which are involved and the symptoms also. Now the prevention and treatment. Keep all household substances out of the reach of the children. Wear protective clothing like gloves when you use cleaners and chemicals. Avoid using pesticides, paint thinner and other chemicals. Treatment, call the nearest poison control center immediately. Have the container in hand. If the label lists instruction for first aid, follow the first aid. Now the fungal intoxications. Poisoning result from the exposure to feed for bedding contaminated with toxins can be produced when various fungi or molds grow or cereals, hay, straw, pastures or any other fodder. Toxins released by fungi, they are known as mycotoxins. And disease caused by fungi, they are on the fingers of the human beings, they get ruffled and whitened. Mycotoxins are naturally occurring toxins produced by certain molds and can be found in food. The molds grow on a variety of different crops and foodstuffs including the cereals, nuts, spices, dried foods, apples and coffee beans, often under harm and humid conditions. Mechanism of action of mycotoxin, it is a single mechanism for each mycotoxin. This variety of tetrazonic effects is related to their heterogeneous origin and chemical nature. The effect on the fetus can occur at any one of the developmental stages. Data describing prenatal effects of mycotoxins are poor, incidental, and in some cases were only allusions to the morphopathological aspects. Prevention and management of fungal agents includes the reduction and remove the risk. Various steps are needed and it will depend upon the distinct biohazards, but there are many common actions that can be applied. Many biological agents are communicated with air, such as toxins of moldy grain or exhaled bacteria. For this, it is important to avoid the formation of aerosols and dust, including when cleaning or during maintenance. Good housekeeping, use of relevant warning signs, and hygienic working strategy are the main elements of safe and working healthy conditions. For survive or resist heat, many microorganisms have developed mechanisms of dehydration or radiation, for example, by producing spores. Decontamination measures used for clothing, waste and equipments are most appropriate hygienic measures for the workers that should be included. Now comes to the animal toxins. Animal toxins, puffer fish, fugu, contains a toxin that is 1200 times more lethal than cyanide. Letharism is another disease, eating seeds by species of Letharum, and it affects mostly people in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Nepal and Nigeria, but sometimes it is found in France, Italy, Spain, Australia. These diseases affect the horses, cattle as well as the man. Beta-cokyl amino L-alanine acid and excretory neurotoxin and glutamate agonist has been identified as the constituent of the chickling pea responsible for the diseases. Ergotism is the human disease that results from the consumption of ergot body in a rye or other grains infected by parasitic fungi of the genus Claviceps. These are the produces of the alkaloids, and symptoms are nausea, vomiting, muscle pain, weakness, numbness, itching and slow heartbeat. These can be controlled by the removal and when immersed with 20% of the salt water infected grain throat, and it can be removed by air flocation or hand picking. Health education is another parameter for the prevention and control of this disease. Now comes to the toxic substances in the plants. Pyrrolizidine alkaloid, it is produced by the genera Cinerio, Crotalaria and Helitropium, the cause of acute liver damage and the vein lesions or liver cancer. These toxic substances in plants, they are mainly in India. Millet, the principal cereal in the diet, appear to be heavily contaminated with Crotalaria seeds. The alkaloid content of the Crotalaria seeds are estimated as 5.3 milligram per gram, and in Afghanistan and India the consumption of wheat bread heavily contaminated with heliotropium seeds was found be the cause of intoxication. The toxic substances of animal origin involves the toxin originated from either white snake root or the rye golden red. The major toxic component appear to be trimetone. There are 5 ways to prevent the food poisoning. Number 1, raw food and the separate raw and cooked food. Keep cleanness, keep food at safe temperature, use safe water and raw ingredients, cook properly or thoroughly. So another recommendation is the cleanness, how to wash your hands. Wet hands with warm water, soap and scrub for 20 minutes, rinse under clean and running water, dry completely using a clean cloth after the washing. So washing hands after going to the bathroom, after handling the pets, after sneezing, touching the outer open area or handling the food. Clean during the food preparation is highly required, in which you can wash your cutters, boards, knives, utensils, countertops with a hot soapy water after preparing each food and before going to the next. Recommendations for the separate, raw, cooked and ready to eat foods while shopping, preparing and storing the foods. This is highly recommended for the prevention and the management. Cooking food to be safe temperature to kill the organism is highly recommended. Chilling is another, chill perishable foods promptly and defrost food properly. Avoid the raw milk or the milk products, raw or partially cooked eggs and the raw eggs, food containing raw eggs, raw and undercooked meat and poultry, unpasteurized juices, raw sprouts. These must be avoided. So thank you, eat well and stay well.